The huge space station floated in the dark void between stars, its crystal walls sparkled with strange lights that hurt to look at directly. Inside the massive hall, creatures from 12 different star systems sat in chairs that changed shape to fit their bodies. This was the Galactic Council, the most important meeting place in the known universe. Ambassador Krelvac walked to the center of the hall. His 4 yellow eyes glowed with excitement, and his insect-like body clicked as he moved. The creatures from the Dominion Empire always looked scary with their sharp claws and metal armor. But today, Krelvac seemed extra pleased with himself. He had news that would shake the entire galaxy. The hall went quiet as Krelvac raised his clawed hands. Everyone knew that when the Dominion Empire spoke, other species listened. They were the strongest military force in this part of space. Their ships could destroy entire planets, and their soldiers were trained from birth to conquer worlds. We have found a new world to add to our empire, Krelvac announced. His voice was loud and harsh like metal scraping against stone. The planet is called Earth, and it sits in a quiet part of the galaxy where nobody important lives. The creatures there call themselves humans, and they are perfect for our next expansion. Murmurs filled the hall. Some aliens looked excited at the thought of new territory. Others seemed worried. Elder Zixther from the peaceful collective slowly stood up. His ancient body was covered in thick gray skin that had wrinkles deeper than canyons. He had lived for thousands of years and had seen many terrible things. Ambassador Krelvac, the old creature said in a voice that shook with worry, "Are you certain about this? Choice Earth is not like other worlds. It carries a special warning in our oldest records. No species has ever successfully conquered that planet." Krelvac laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Foolish old one," he said with a wave of his claw. "Those are just stories told to frighten children. These humans cannot even travel faster than light. Their weapons are simple metal sticks that shoot tiny bullets. They fight each other constantly over pieces of dirt. What threat could such primitives pose to our mighty fleet?" The other council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They all knew things that Krelvac refused to learn. Earth was listed in their secret files as a Category 9 hazard world. This meant it was one of the most dangerous places in the galaxy, but the danger did not come from advanced weapons or powerful armies. It came from something much worse. Many light years away on the blue planet Earth, 2 Korean scientists worked late in their laboratory in Seoul City. Kim Dae bent over a strange device that sparked with blue electricity. His partner Park Seoul watched nervously as energy readings climbed higher and higher than anything they had ever seen before. "Are you sure this will work?" Seoul asked as she adjusted her safety glasses. The machine was humming now, and the air around it seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. Day smiled as his fingers danced across buttons and switches that glowed with their own inner light. "Trust me," he said, "if my math is right, this will let us talk to people across vast distances. We might even hear voices from other worlds." Neither scientists knew that their simple experiment was about to send a signal across the galaxy that would terrify every advanced civilization within 1,000 light years. The device they had built was not just a communication tool. It was something that touched the deepest mysteries of how the universe worked. Back in the council chambers, warning alarms suddenly screamed through the air. The huge viewing screen came to life, showing energy readings that made several aliens gasp in fear. The readings were coming from Earth, and they showed power levels that should not exist. By the 7 suns, whispered Ambassador Heltrix from the Trade Federation, her snake-like body coiled with terror. "They are doing it again. The humans are experimenting with forces they do not understand." Krelvac remained stubborn even as doubt crept into his voice. "Impossible," he said. "Our spy reports show they barely understand how to split atoms. This must be some natural space phenomenon." Elder Zixther stood to his full height, casting shadows across the chamber. "Ambassador Krelvac, I beg you to reconsider your plans. The last 3 species who tried to invade Earth no longer exist. The Dominion Empire may be strong, but you are not prepared for what waits on that world." The chamber filled with worried voices. Representatives from dozens of species nodded their heads, remembering their unclassified files. These files contained terrifying stories of what happened when Earth's people felt threatened, stories of impossible victories of technologies that broke the laws of physics, of humans who seemed to become something beyond normal understanding when their world was in danger. But Krelvac's pride had been wounded by the Council's warnings. His military leaders had promised him that their fleet of 12,000 warships, each armed with planet-destroying weapons, could easily crush any resistance. The decision was made and nothing would change it. The Dominion Empire will proceed with the invasion. Krelvek announced with finality, "We will show the galaxy that Earth's reputation is built on lies and fear. Our fleet leaves within 1 day." As the council session ended in shocked silence, emergency messages went out across the galaxy. Ancient alliances activated emergency plans that had been sleeping for centuries. Trading posts along the spiral arm began evacuating their people. Deep space monitoring stations went into lockdown mode, hiding behind shields and barriers throughout the galaxy. Civilizations that had existed for millions of years prepared for what was coming. They remembered the old stories, the classified reports, the warnings that had been passed down through generations. They knew that when humans felt threatened, something terrible and wonderful and impossible would happen. The galaxy held its breath and waited. Some species prayed to their gods, others checked their weapons and defenses. A few simply started running as fast as their ships could carry them away from Earth's section of space. In the depths of space, ancient machines that had been dormant for millennia began to wake up, triggered by the energy signature from Earth. These machines had been built by civilizations that no longer existed, created as warnings for future generations. Now they sent out signals of their own, messages that said only one thing: do not go to Earth, do not threaten the humans, do not learn what happens when they decide to defend themselves. But the Dominion Empire was already moving. 12,000 ships, each the size of a small city, began their journey toward the blue planet. Their crews were confident in their superior technology and overwhelming numbers. They believed they would write their names in galactic history as the conquerors of the impossible world. They had no idea that they were about to become part of a very different kind of story, a story that would be told across the galaxy for generations to come as a warning about the dangers of underestimating the species that called themselves human. On Earth, Kim Day and Park Sol continued their work, unaware that their innocent experiment had just triggered the most important series of events in galactic history. The device hummed quietly in their laboratory, a simple machine that had somehow touched the fundamental forces of reality itself. Soon they would learn that humanity had been preparing for this moment for much longer than anyone realized. 3 months passed since the council meeting, and the massive Dominion fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a storm cloud of death. 12,000 warships, each bigger than entire cities, arranged themselves in perfect battle formation. The ships gleamed with dark metal and pulsed with energy weapons that could crack planets in half. General Vactor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, looking out at the small blue world that would soon belong to his empire. He was the greatest military commander in Dominion history, with scars from 100 conquered worlds marking his insect-like body. His 4 eyes studied the primitive planet with growing confusion, scanned everything he commanded. His tactical officer, Commander Zilpeth. "I want to know about every human settlement, every space station, every weapon they might use against us." Zilpeth worked at her control panel, her claws clicking rapidly across the strange alien technology. The readings made no sense to her trained military mind. "General, the scans show signs of advanced civilization, but their space presence is almost nothing. A few orbital stations, some basic satellites, and one small space station with maybe 12 people inside." General Vactor felt disappointed and suspicious. "Where are their defense fleets?" he asked. "Where are their orbital weapons platforms? Where are their planetary shields that should protect them from invasion, sir?" "I detect no military installations beyond what we would expect from a species that barely knows how to leave their own planet. Their most advanced ships appear to be simple chemical rockets used for local transport." The general wondered if this was the most sophisticated trap in galactic history, or if the council's warnings were completely wrong. He decided to be careful and study the humans before attacking. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," he ordered. "I want complete surveillance of their major cities before we begin destroying them on Earth." The appearance of alien ships had not gone unnoticed. Deep space monitoring stations detected the massive energy signatures, and within hours, emergency protocols activated worldwide in a secret facility hidden beneath the mountains of South Korea. A team of the world's most brilliant scientists gathered around displays showing the alien fleet Dr. Lihe. The facility's director studied the tactical data with calm precision. Beside him, quantum physicist Dr. Choi Mina worked at calculations on a massive computer array that seemed to bend space around itself. The technology in the room looked nothing like what the aliens had detected on their scans. 12,000 ships, Juan said quietly, each one capable of destroying a continent. Their technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of anything we have shown the public. Mina nodded her fingers, moving across controls that existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. The good news is they do not know about our real capabilities. They are treating us like a primitive species that knows nothing about advanced science because that is exactly what we want them to think, added Dr. Yun Kang, the chief weapons designer. His latest creation, called the Reality Adjustment Protocol, hummed quietly nearby. How long do we have before they attack? Based on their scanning patterns, I estimate 6 hours before they begin their assault. Huan replied that should give us enough time to activate all contingency measures around the world. Similar facilities came online. Technologies that had been developed in secret for decades, hidden from public view and even from most government officials, began powering up. The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for nearly a century. Ever since the first alien signals had been detected and decoded, humans had learned something the galaxy had forgotten. The universe was far stranger and more dangerous than most civilizations wanted to admit, while other species had grown comfortable with their understanding of physics and reality. Humans had continued pushing boundaries, experimenting with forces that others considered too dangerous to touch. In the Dominion fleet reconnaissance drones transmitted their findings. The reports showed a species that seemed almost pathetically weak. Their cities had no energy shields. Their military bases used primitive projectile weapons, and their space program was barely advanced enough to maintain one orbital station. It is perfect, Vactor said, reviewing the data. We can complete the conquest in a single day. Minimal resistance, maximum resource acquisition. Begin the assault on my command. But as the fleet moved into attack formation, something unexpected happened. The small space station orbiting Earth, which had been ignored as militarily insignificant, suddenly began broadcasting a signal that made every alien sensor scream. Warnings on. The station commander, Park Jun, floated in the zero-gravity command center, his calm expression showing nothing of the anticipation he felt around him. His small crew of 12 made final preparations for what they all knew would be the most important day in human history. Signal confirmed from ground control, reported communications officer Kim Yuri. All contingency systems are green. We are authorized to proceed with defensive measures. Jun nodded and opened a channel to the alien fleet. When he spoke, his voice carried across the void with perfect clarity. Translated by systems the aliens could not detect. Attention, unknown vessels, you are approaching Earth territorial space. State your intentions immediately. The response came back almost instantly, filled with arrogance and contempt. Primitive humans, your world now belongs to the Dominion Empire. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift and painless. Jun smiled, and for just a moment something in his expression would have terrified any galactic observer who truly understood what they were seeing. I see, he said. Thank you for making your position clear. Please stand by for our response. The alien fleet expected panic or futile defiance. What they received instead was something that broke every law of physics. They understood the small space station, which their sensors had dismissed as a primitive orbital platform, suddenly began to change. Its simple round structure started unfolding like a metal flower, revealing geometry that hurt to look at directly. Parts of the station existed in spaces that should not be possible, connected by corridors that seemed to loop back on themselves while somehow extending into dimensions that did not exist. What in the seven hells is that, Vactor? Demanded, his voice cracking with confusion and growing fear. Commander Zilpeth's hands shook as she read the sensor data. Sir, I am detecting massive energy buildups, but the readings make no sense. The station is somehow drawing power from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It is as if they are tapping directly into the fundamental forces of reality itself. Impossible. No species has that level of technology. Sir, incoming transmission from the station. Commander Park Chion's image appeared on the main screen, still floating calmly in what now appeared to be a command center that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Behind him his crew worked at stations that seemed to phase in and out of existence, their fingers manipulating controls that existed in spaces between spaces. Dominion Fleet Jun said, his voice carrying an authority that made hardened warriors step back. You have been warned. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your actions. Victor's pride overrode his growing fear. You dare threaten us, he shouted. We have 12,000 ships. Your pathetic station could not damage a single one of our scout vessels. Jun's expression did not change, but something in his eyes suggested infinite patience wearing dangerously thin. Very well, Kim Yuri, please demonstrate our defensive capabilities. To our guests, the young communications officer nodded and pressed a single control. Instantly, one of the Dominion fleet's forward scouts, a massive dreadnought capable of destroying moons, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, not torn apart by weapons fire, it just stopped being real, as if it had never existed at all. The fleet's sensors could not detect what had happened. One moment the ship was there with a crew of 10,000 soldiers, the next moment it was gone, leaving no debris, no energy signature, no trace that it had ever been part of reality. How Vactor whispered, his 4 eyes wide with terror as he stared at empty space where his ship had been. You would not understand, Jun replied calmly. Your species, like most in the galaxy, limited yourselves to working within the boundaries of what you believed was possible. Humans never accepted those limitations. General Vactor expected the human response to be either panic, surrender, or hopeless resistance. What he received instead was something that made his understanding of the universe crumble like sand. The small space station continued changing its shape in ways that violated every law of physics. His scientists knew the station grew larger and smaller at the same time, extending in directions that did not exist while somehow remaining the same size. Sections appeared and disappeared like thoughts, becoming real, then fading back into impossibility. The very space around it seemed to bend and twist as if reality itself was being rewritten. What are they doing to our sensors? Vactor demanded, his voice high with panic. Commander Zilpeth stared at her displays with growing horror. Sir, the readings suggest they are not affecting our sensors. They are actually changing the fundamental structure of space itself. The station exists in 17 different dimensions simultaneously while maintaining a single physical presence that is impossible. No species in galactic history has achieved multidimensional engineering, sir. Incoming transmission from the station again. Commander Park Jun appeared on screen again, but now his image seemed more real than the physical beings around it. His command center had expanded into spaces that hurt to think about, filled with equipment that existed in the spaces between atoms. General Vactor Jun said with the patience of someone explaining simple concepts to a child. You seem confused. Let me clarify our position. Earth is not a primitive world waiting to be conquered. Earth is a civilization that has learned to work with reality itself rather than simply existing within it. Vactor's mandibles clicked with rage. You think your tricks frighten us? We have weapons that can destroy star systems. We have technology that can reshape matter itself. Then use them. Jun replied simply. The general's pride overwhelmed his growing fear. All ships open fire. Destroy that station. Turn it into cosmic dust. 12,000 warships unleash their combined fury. The energy released was enough to sterilize entire solar systems, planet-cracking beams, reality-warping missiles, and weapons that could tear holes in space-time itself all converged on the small human station. The weapons simply stopped existing the moment they came within a kilometer of the station. Not intercepted, not deflected, not absorbed, they ceased to be real, as if the concept of aggression itself was being rejected by the space around the humans. Impossible. Vactor screamed as he watched trillions of credits worth of advanced weaponry simply disappear. Commander Jun sighed like a teacher disappointed with a slow student. We really hoped you would reconsider. Kim Yuri, please show them what happens when someone attacks Earth. This time Yuri pressed 3 controls in sequence. The effect was immediate and absolute. Every weapon system in the Dominion fleet simply forgot how to function, not damaged, not destroyed, but fundamentally altered at the quantum level, so that the very concept of causing harm became foreign to their programming. 12,000 warships, the pride of the Dominion Empire, were rendered completely helpless in 3 seconds. Their crews frantically pushed buttons and pulled levers, But nothing responded. The ships floated in space like monuments to futility on Earth. Dr. Lee Hen-hoon watched the battle from his underground command center with satisfaction. Phase 1 complete, he announced. Dr. Choi are the probability matrices stable. Dr. Choi. Mena looked up from her console that existed in multiple realities at once, stable and improving. We are reading a 94.7% chance of complete success with minimal collateral damage. Excellent, Dr. Yoon. Are the reality adjustment protocols ready for Phase 2? Dr. Yoon Kong grinned as he made final adjustments to his latest creation. Ready and eager. Should I demonstrate the futility of their defenses first or go straight to the main event? Let us be sporting about it. Give them a chance to realize what they are truly facing back in space. General Vactor stood on his bridge surrounded by control panels that no longer responded to commands. His greatest fleet had been reduced to floating metal in a matter of minutes without a single human weapon being fired. This is impossible, he whispered. No species has this level of control over fundamental forces. Jin's voice came through the communication system again, carrying what might have been pity. General, your species reached the stars by copying technologies that others had already discovered. You became powerful by conquering worlds that could not defend themselves. You never learned to truly innovate, to push beyond the boundaries of what was thought possible. Humans, on the other hand, have spent our entire existence asking what if and why not. We have never been the strongest or the fastest or the most numerous, but we have always been the most curious, and curiosity, General, is the most dangerous force in the universe. As if to prove his point, the space around the fleet began to change. Stars that had been light years away suddenly appeared close enough to touch. The laws of physics became suggestions rather than absolute rules. The Dominion ships found themselves trapped in a pocket of space where human will had become the dominant force. Matter began reshaping itself according to human imagination. Gravity flowed like water. Time moved in loops and spirals. The alien crews watched in terror as their reality became fluid, malleable, subject to change by beings they had dismissed as primitive. We are going to send you home now, Jun continued, his voice carrying across impossible distances. But first you are going to carry a message to the galaxy. Tell them what you have seen here. Tell them that Earth is not to be disturbed. And tell them that the next species to threaten our world will face consequences that make today's demonstration seem like a gentle warning. The Dominion fleet found themselves being moved not by engines or propulsion but by reality itself, rearranging to place them billions of miles away from Earth. Their weapons remained permanently disabled. Their sensors recorded everything, but their understanding remained shattered. General Vactor tried to process what had happened to his mighty fleet. How, he asked into the void. How do they have such power? The answer came from Dr. Lee Hon, speaking directly into his mind across the vast distances. Because we learned the most important lesson in the universe. Power without wisdom is destruction, but wisdom without compassion is meaningless. We do not seek to control reality, we seek to understand it and work with it for the benefit of all. The Dominion fleet limped home carrying news that would reshape galactic civilization and on-Earth humanity. Continued their quiet work of pushing the boundaries of what was possible, always asking the next question, always wondering what lay beyond the next impossible barrier. The galaxy would never be the same. The Dominion fleet's retreat became the most talked about event in galactic history. 12,000 warships, each a symbol of military might, limped back toward their home systems with their weapons permanently disabled and their crews' minds shattered by technologies that made no sense. General Vactor stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display that showed Earth shrinking behind them. His four eyes, once filled with confidence and pride, now held only terror and confusion. The humans had not just defeated them, they had made the very idea of victory meaningless. Sir Commander Zilpeth said quietly, "We are receiving priority communications from the Galactic Council. They are demanding a full report immediate." Televaker S. mandibles clicked nervously. What do I tell them? That a species we thought was primitive has technology that makes our most advanced weapons look like toys? That they can change reality itself with the press of a button? The truth, General, we tell them the truth. The communication reached the council chambers within hours, transmitted across the galaxy by networks that had carried trade agreements and peace treaties for thousands of years. But this message was different. This message carried Sensor data, tactical recordings, and first-hand accounts that would change how the galaxy understood what was possible. Elder Zixter listened to the report in grim silence, his ancient features growing more worried as the details emerged around him. Representatives from dozens of species sat in stunned silence, their own classified files suddenly seeming completely inadequate. So, Zixter said finally, the humans have advanced beyond even our most pessimistic projections. They are not just using unknown technologies, they are manipulating the fundamental structure of reality itself. Ambassador Heltrix of the Trade Federation leaned forward, her scales still pale with fear. Elder, our deep space monitoring stations detected the energy signatures from the battle. The readings are impossible. They suggest the humans somehow weaponized probability itself, and that is not even the most terrifying part, added Representative Colmith of the Scientific Collective. Our analysis suggests they were not using their full capabilities. The battle was more of a demonstration than a real defensive action. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. If the humans had held back, if what they had witnessed was only a fraction of Earth's true capabilities, then the implications were staggering. Every military force in the galaxy might be helpless against them. We need to understand their technology, demanded Ambassador Vextalon of the Military Alliance. If they can manipulate reality, they could threaten every civilization in the galaxy. Or Elder Zixler said quietly, they could be the key to solving problems we have struggled with for thousands of years. Think about it. Disease, resource scarcity, the limitations of faster-than-light travel. If humans can truly alter reality, they might be able to solve challenges that have plagued us for generations. Meanwhile, on Earth, the global response to the alien invasion proceeded with typical human efficiency in hidden facilities around the world. Scientists and engineers worked to upgrade defensive systems that had already proven more effective than anyone had dared hope. Dr. Lee Juan reviewed the tactical data from the space station and countered, his analytical mind already working on improvements. The reality adjustment protocols worked perfectly, he noted, but we need to consider the possibility that other species might have similar capabilities. Dr. Troy Mena looked up from her multidimensional calculations. Actually, our deep space sensors are detecting something interesting. We are receiving communications from several galactic civilizations, but they are not threatening. They appear to be requests for peaceful dialogue. Juan raised an eyebrow. After what we just demonstrated, that is exactly why they want to talk, added Dr. Yun Kong from his position at the weapons console. We have shown them something they did not think was possible. Now they want to understand it. The first formal contact came from the Peaceful Collective, a federation of species that had spent centuries promoting cooperation and understanding. Their message was simple but profound. Esteemed humans of Earth, we seek peaceful communication and mutual understanding. Your recent demonstration of capabilities has impressed us greatly. We believe there is much we could learn from each other. Similar messages followed from dozens of other civilizations. The Scientific Collective wanted to exchange research. The Trade Federation offered exclusive partnerships. Even the Military Alliance, despite their obvious concerns, expressed interest in non-aggressive cooperation. But the most intriguing message came from a source that surprised everyone: the Galactic Council itself. Elder Zixler's image appeared on screens in every major Earth facility simultaneously, his ancient voice carrying across the void with careful diplomatic precision. People of Earth, I am Elder Zixler, senior representative of the Galactic Council. On behalf of the civilized species of this galaxy, I extend greetings and respect. Dr. Juan activated the response system from his command center. Elder Zixler, we receive your message. I am Dr. Leo Juan speaking for the Earth Defense Coordination Council. We are listening. Dr. Juan, we must speak plainly. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that we believed were impossible. You have shown that the boundaries we thought were absolute are merely suggestions. This raises questions that go to the heart of our understanding of reality itself. What kind of questions, Elder? The kind that could reshape the galaxy. Dr. Juan, your species has achieved something that every civilization has dreamed of: true mastery over the fundamental forces of existence. The question is, what do you intend to do with that power? The conversation continued for hours, with other council representatives joining the discussion. They shared classified files about previous failed invasions of Earth, revealed the true extent of galactic monitoring of human activities, and offered insights into technologies that even the most advanced species considered theoretical. But the most significant revelation came near the end of the conversation. Dr. Juan Elder Zixler said, "There is something you should know. Earth is not the only world that has achieved reality manipulation. There are others scattered across the galaxy. Ancient civilizations that transcended normal existence and then disappeared. They ascended beyond our understanding, leaving behind only artifacts and legends. We have always wondered what happened to them. Now, seeing what humans have accomplished, we wonder if you might be following the same path. The implications were staggering. If other species had achieved similar capabilities and then vanished, it raised questions about the ultimate fate of any civilization that truly mastered reality. Were humans destined to transcend physical existence entirely, or had they found a way to maintain their connection to the material universe while wielding godlike power? We appreciate your concerns," Elder Juan replied, "but humans have always been different. We do not seek to transcend reality. We seek to understand it, to work with it, to find harmony between what is and what could be." "We hope you are right, Dr. Juan, for all our sakes." The conversation ended, but it was just the beginning. Within weeks, embassies were being established, communication networks were expanded, and the first tentative steps toward galactic cooperation were being taken. The galaxy had learned that Earth was not a primitive world to be conquered. It was a civilization that had achieved something every species dreamed of, and now they all wanted to learn how. 3 months after the failed Dominion invasion, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy new reality. Trade routes that had operated for thousands of years now curved around Earth's solar system, not out of fear, but out of deep respect for a species that had redefined what was possible. In the Galactic Council chambers, an emergency session was meeting. Representatives from every known civilization gathered to discuss the implications of humanity's demonstrated capabilities, but this time there was an additional presence. Dr. Leo Wan himself, attending through a holographic projection that somehow seemed more real than the physical beings around him. Dr. Juan Elder Zixler began, "We have reviewed all available data regarding your species' recent demonstration. We must ask directly, how is this possible?" Juan smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both humility and confidence. "Elder, the answer is both simpler and more complex than you might expect. Humans have always approached the universe with a fundamental question: what if the rules are wrong? But the laws of physics are universal," protested Professor Krelvith of the Scientific Collective. "They cannot simply be ignored or changed, cannot they?" Juan replied. "Tell me, Professor, what is the speed of light? 299,792,458 meters per second in a vacuum. This is absolute and unchangeable. According to whom? According to measurements made by civilizations that accepted that limitation as fixed. But what if light itself is simply following instructions? What if those instructions can be changed?" The chamber fell silent. The implications of Juan's words were staggering. If the fundamental constants of physics were not actually constant, if they were more like programming that could be rewritten, then reality itself became malleable like clay in the hands of a skilled artist. Ambassador Heltrix leaned forward, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. "Dr. Juan, are you suggesting that your species has learned to reprogram the universe itself?" "In a sense, yes, but not in the way you might think. We did not override the laws of physics. We learned to speak their language. We discovered that reality is far more collaborative than most species realize." To demonstrate, Juan made a simple gesture. Instantly, a small flower materialized in the center of the chamber, its petals shifting through colors that did not exist in any known spectrum. The flower was completely real, composed of matter and energy that obeyed all physical laws, yet it had been created from nothing by an act of will. "How?" whispered Representative Colmith, his 3 eyes wide with amazement. "We asked reality very politely if it would be possible to have a flower here," Juan explained, and reality, being fundamentally cooperative, agreed. "The trick is learning how to ask properly," but not everyone in the chamber was impressed by the demonstration from the far side of the room. A new voice spoke up, filled with cold authority and barely contained aggression. "Impressive parlor tricks," the voice said. But can your species survive when reality itself decides to fight back? The chamber erupted in gasps and frightened murmurs. The speaker was Ambassador Threnduk of the Shadow Dominion, a mysterious civilization that rarely attended council sessions and never revealed their true capabilities. Most species considered them a myth, a legend told to frighten young civilizations. The Shadow Dominion honors us with their presence, Elder Zixter said carefully. We were not aware you were monitoring these proceedings. We monitor everything that threatens the stability of the galaxy, Threnduk replied, and humans with their reality manipulation represent the greatest threat we have encountered in 50,000 years. Dr. Juan's expression did not change, but something in his posture suggested he was no longer dealing with a diplomatic discussion. Threat, we have made no aggressive moves against any civilization. We have demonstrated our defensive capabilities only when directly attacked. Your very existence is a threat, Threnduk continued. You play with forces that destroyed entire galactic civilizations. You manipulate reality. Without understanding the consequences, you must be stopped before you trigger another. Reality war, Juan asked, though something in his voice suggested he already knew the answer. Elder Zixter's ancient features grew even more grave. Dr. Juan, there is much about galactic history that we have never shared with younger species. 50,000 years ago, a civilization, much like yours, discovered how to manipulate the fundamental forces of existence. They became drunk on their own power, began reshaping entire star systems to suit their whims, and Hun prompted. They triggered a cascade reaction that nearly destroyed the galaxy. Reality itself began to break down, with sections of space-time becoming unstable. It took the combined efforts of every surviving civilization to contain the damage, and even then we lost entire regions of space to chaos and impossibility. The Shadow Dominion, Threnduk added, exists to prevent such catastrophes from occurring again. We have eliminated 17 species that showed signs of reality manipulation capabilities. Earth will be the 18th. The threat hung in the air like a living thing around the chamber. Representatives began to understand that they were witnessing the beginning of a conflict that could reshape the galaxy once again. But Dr. Juan's response was not what anyone expected. He laughed. You think we are like the civilizations that came before, he said, his voice carrying genuine amusement. You think we have stumbled onto these capabilities by accident, that we are children playing with forces we do not understand? Are you not? Threnduk demanded. Far from it. We have been studying the reality wars for decades. We know exactly what went wrong 50,000 years ago, and we know how to avoid repeating those mistakes. Alon made another gesture, and suddenly the chamber was filled with holographic displays, showing mathematical equations, quantum probability matrices, and dimensional stability calculations that hurt to look at directly. The previous civilizations failed because they tried to impose their will on reality, he explained. They treated the universe like a conquered territory to be reshaped according to their desires. We understand that reality is not a tool to be wielded, but a partner to be cooperated with. Pretty words, Threnduk said coldly, but the results are the same. Reality manipulation leads to instability, chaos, and eventual collapse. The Shadow Dominion will not permit another catastrophe, then, Juan said, his voice taking on a tone that made every being in the chamber step back involuntarily. I suppose we have a problem. The confrontation was building towards something that would change the galaxy forever, and in that moment every representative present understood that they were about to witness either the salvation or the destruction of everything they knew. The confrontation between Dr. Juan and Ambassador Threnduk had been building for nearly an hour, with tension in the Galactic Council chamber reaching levels that made the very air seem to vibrate with potential violence. But what happened next would be remembered as the moment when the galaxy's power structure shifted forever. Shadow Dominion, Juan said, his voice carrying a calm authority that seemed to bend space around him. You have spent 50,000 years appointing yourselves as the guardians of galactic stability. You have destroyed civilizations based on fear and assumption. Today, that ends. Threnduk's form, which had been wreathed in shadows and darkness, suddenly became clearer, as if reality itself was refusing to let him hide. You dare threaten us. We have technologies that predate your species by millions of years. And yet, Juan replied, you still do not understand what you are dealing with. He made a subtle gesture, and instantly every being in the chamber could see the truth. The Shadow Dominion, for all their mystery and power, were revealed to be nothing more than the remnants of one of the ancient civilizations that had caused the original reality wars. They had survived their own catastrophe by hiding in the spaces between dimensions, spending thousands of years hunting down other species to prevent them from making the same mistakes. You are not protectors, Juan continued. You are survivors driven mad by guilt and isolation. You have been eliminating species not to save the galaxy, but to ensure that no one else achieves what you lost. The revelation sent shockwaves through the chamber. Elder Zixther's ancient eyes widened with understanding. The Shadow Dominion, you are the architects of the third spiral of the civilization that started the reality wars. We did what was necessary, Threnduk said, his voice cracking with the weight of millennia. We made mistakes, yes, but we learned from them. We became the galaxy's immune system, eliminating threats before they could spread. You became the galaxy's cancer, Juan corrected, destroying potential and possibility out of fear, but that changes now. What happened next was witnessed by every representative in the chamber, recorded by every sensor, and transmitted across the galaxy. Within hours, Dr. Juan did not attack the Shadow Dominion. Instead, he did something far more profound. He healed them with a gesture that seemed to encompass dimensions beyond normal space. Juan reached into the quantum structure of Threnduk's existence and gently repaired the damage that 50,000 years of guilt and isolation had caused. The shadows fell away, revealing beings that were fundamentally similar to dozens of other species, but marked by an ancient sadness that was now finally beginning to lift. You do not have to carry this burden anymore, Juan said softly. The galaxy has moved beyond the failures of the past. It is time for you to do the same. For the first time in 50,000 years, Threnduk wept, not the tears of a destroyer, but the tears of a being who had suddenly remembered what it meant to hope. How, Threnduk whispered, how do you have such power and yet remain human? Because, Juan explained, we learned the most important lesson of all power without wisdom is destruction, but wisdom without compassion is meaningless. We do not seek to control reality. We seek to understand it and work with it for the benefit of all. The transformation of the Shadow Dominion was just the beginning. Over the following months, human scientists and engineers worked with species across the galaxy to share their understanding of reality manipulation, but they did not simply hand over technologies. They taught the philosophical frameworks that made such power safe to use. Dr. Choi Mina established the Galactic Institute for Cooperative Reality Studies, working with researchers from hundreds of species to develop new applications for reality manipulation that enhanced rather than replaced natural processes. Her first major project was the elimination of a plague that had been devastating the Outer Rim territories for decades. Dr. Yunkang, meanwhile, worked with the reformed Shadow Dominion to develop new defensive technologies that could protect entire star systems from natural disasters and aggressive species. His reality adjustment protocols became the foundation for a new type of galactic peacekeeping force, but perhaps the most significant development was the establishment of the Earth Galactic Council, a new governing body that included human representatives, working alongside traditional galactic powers. The Council's first major initiative was the creation of reality stability monitoring networks designed to detect and prevent the kind of cascade failures that had caused the original reality wars 6 months after the confrontation in the Council chambers. Elder Zixther stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Cooperation Station, watching as human and alien engineers worked together to construct technologies that would have been impossible just a year earlier. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, existing simultaneously in normal space and several parallel dimensions. Never in all my centuries, he said to Dr. Juan, who stood beside him, did I imagine that the solution to our greatest fears would come from the species we thought was the most primitive. One smiled, watching as a group of young humans and aliens worked together to adjust the station's multidimensional generators. We are not the most advanced species in the galaxy, Elder. We are not the strongest or the smartest or the most sophisticated, but we are the most curious, and sometimes that is enough, more than enough. Zixther agreed. You have shown us that the universe is not a collection of rules to be followed, but a conversation to be participated in. That may be the most important discovery in galactic history as, if to prove his point, a new signal appeared on the station's sensors. It was a message from the galactic core, a region that had been considered unreachable by conventional means. The message was simple but profound: welcome to the next phase of galactic evolution we have been waiting for. Youth signal came from the transcended the ancient civilizations that had achieved reality manipulation and then disappeared. They had not died or ascended beyond physical existence. They had simply moved to a different level of reality, waiting for other species to join them. Humanity had passed the test. They had achieved ultimate power without losing their humanity. They had learned to work with reality rather than dominate it, and now they were ready to help guide the galaxy into a new age of cooperation, understanding, and infinite possibility. The universe was vast and full of mysteries, but for the first time in galactic history, it seemed that all its children might learn to work together to explore those mysteries and perhaps even create new ones. Earth had become not just a planet but a symbol of what was possible when curiosity, compassion, and wisdom worked together, and the galaxy would never be the same again.